And I went to visit my older sister in Colorado. We hadn't really talked about it. Korben wasn't planned, but my older sister told me about him while I was in Colorado, and I said, I want that baby. She was telling me about his parents. They were homeless druggies and pretty much just abandoned him at the hospital.
So he's actually, I thought he was from Texas, so he's actually not from Texas.
He's from San Antonio.
Okay.
He, my older sister and I, we have the same father but different mothers, and he's related on her mom's side.
Okay.
So she had talked to her aunt earlier that day, and her aunt had told her the story. And so she was relaying the story to me. I said, I want that baby. And she was like, what? You're not serious? And she kind of laughed it off. I said, seriously, I want that baby. And she said, don't you need to talk to Corey? I said, no, I know what the answer is. I will text him if it makes you feel better. And so I texted him. I said, do you want a baby?
I said, bring him home.
I don't know. Part of me would be like, well, wait, don't I have to be part of this to have that? Or, yeah.
So we started paperwork. I mean, that day she called her aunt back and told her, and thus began our long journey of Korben.
Now I know. So did y'all actually have to go through the court system in Colorado or Texas?
In Texas.
Oh,
Texas.
San Antonio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember. Well, you're saying Colorado. And
It's just where my older sister lives,
okay.
but him and his family are from South Texas, San Antonio.
Yeah.
So was it like? I guess you hear a lot of horror stories about like how much it costs to do the adoption, like how long it is, how difficult it is. Was it easier because you knew the family, or was it? Do you think?
Yes, that part was easier. It was still a nightmare.
If we had known about him earlier, it would have been smooth sailing.
Yeah, cut and dry.
But he was already a little over 6 months when we started the process, and so the foster family tried to fight for him.
Okay.
But they didn't legally have any rights to him until he had been placed with them 12 months. So they were barely halfway through their thing, and they knew family could come looking for him. But they got an attorney who prolonged it and really drug it out. And I mean, every hearing we had, the judges were just like, no, to this family. But then they would find another appeal, and the judge didn't want to.
Trying to find loopholes in the system.
Yeah.
The judge didn't want to just yank him out of that home. He wanted to hear them in case they had any type of standing, but they didn't. And once he finally heard their last appeal, he went ahead and gave us the placement rights. But even at that point, we still had to visit him every weekend for a month.
Yeah.
He wanted us to establish a relationship with him before he just wound up in some new home. But the placement was very easy. We're not really sure how the relationship was with his foster family, but it didn't seem like he was very connected.
Mm-hmm.
He never once cried for them or missed them or anything. And if anything, he was super attached to us from the moment we started visitations.
From the very first time we saw each other, actually.
Yep.
But no, it didn't cost us a penny.
Yeah.
We had the CPS attorneys were on our side because we do know the family, and even though we're not blood related, they considered us fictive kin.
Yeah.
And so they fought for him to be with us because they knew we would have long-standing relationships with the family, which we do. We take him to San Antonio to see his grandparents and his siblings, and then another attorney that was fighting for us was his biological father's state paid attorney. She helped us with a lot, and then our adoption attorney ended up being paid for by the state also because he was considered at the time special needs because he was so far behind when we first started seeing him and working with him.
Something really cool I thought was when we first met him, he was 6 months old, couldn't pull up on anything, couldn't crawl, just sat there, wouldn't track with his eyes, and so they had thought, because he had been exposed to alcohol and meth in the uterus, and so they thought that those were potentially going to be long-term things that he had to deal with.
Every time I talked to the CPS worker on the phone, like, she wasn't trying to talk me out of it, but she was just trying to make sure I understood she would tell me about, we've been doing eye tests and he's not tracking still, and he's got this, and we think this might be wrong with him. Are you sure? Are you sure you can handle special needs? I was like, yes, I want him. I feel it. I know.
So the first time that we visited with him, it was time for our visitation to be up. And so we just laid hands on him and we prayed for restoration, for healing, and that his body would come into alignment with what, how God created it.
Yeah.
And we got a phone call immediately the next day saying, we don't know what's going on. He jumped from just crawling to actually pulling up on tables and walking around furniture.
Holding on to stuff.
And he had his eye appointment yesterday, and he's fully tracking. And he's responsive in different areas that we didn't think. And within a week's time, he was accomplishing all of his, what was the place he was going through?
ECI.
Yeah, ECI, early childhood intervention.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And
They were doing therapy twice a week to help develop him.
They said that week he started responding to all of his therapies that they were having issues with. And so it was like, she said, it is like I'm looking at a different kid. I was like, well, you are. Because we prayed for him. So, but yeah, so I mean, it was amazing. It was really, really cool.
Now, I know I saw a story on Facebook, and I guess if y'all could elaborate on it, what was the whole thing about the helmet?
You can't believe everything that you read on the internet, Steven.
Y'all posted it. Y'all lying to us?
So in there,
I'll go get the helmet.
he did have kind of a flat spot.
Mm-hmm.
When he was in his mother's womb, they were homeless. They slept in cars.
So cramps.
Tents.
Yeah.
He was very cramped. He slept on one side of the uterus a lot, and she didn't get the proper exercise and stuff. So when he came out, he had a flat spot. It was mild.
Yeah.
Had he have received the care that he needed immediately, they want to start these helmets as early as 3 months.
Yeah.
6 months into it, he didn't even have his helmet yet. And the moment that they began to see utilizing the angle of a special needs child as their case for why he should remain in their care, that's when they went ahead and got the helmet. And because they started at 6 months, he then had to have it on for 6 months.
Yeah.
So when they found out that the placement was going to be official, that he was going to be with us, the judge asked if the foster family had any suggestions, and that was one of the things that they said that we just really couldn't believe, was that they said, yes, if they go, we either want reimbursement for the treatment or we want the helmet back. So it's like, that was an immediate red flag that they didn't have the best interest of Korben at hand. First of all, they get paid by the state every month, so any money that they get, is his anyway.
Yeah.
So that would have been applied towards the helmet, which makes it his helmet anyway. But even
Corey, he's trying to put it on.
even in a reimbursement state,
Yeah.
I kind of would have understood it. But when she said we want the helmet back, well, that puts the health of the child against the situation, and it's like, really. So we paid the money and kept his strange
put it on?
Irish helmet.
Because I remember the post on Facebook. I remember seeing that.
It's
too
small.
And I remember
It's too small, buddy.
I do have to say one thing I really remember about the post was like how many people like jumped right into like to the forefront to help y'all out on that.
Oh, we started a GoFundMe, and people started immediately giving to it, and then someone in our church donated the full amount. And so we told the people who had donated, we said, hey, this has already been paid in full. Do you want your refunds back? And they said, no, apply that towards anything else he needs.
Which was really nice, because although we didn't pay any legal fees, we were in San Antonio
every weekend.
Every week
So
for months, at least once a week. Sometimes we had to go midweek and then weekend also. And
most of the time we stayed with his grandparents, but there was times where we had to do hotels, and so between food and gas and hotels,
And paying for our special outings that we did with Korben.
Yeah, because we had to have special places where we had to meet with him in public when we first started.
Yeah.
There was no home visitations allowed, and so we would have to pay to go places with him. And so yeah, there was all kinds of money that we were having to spend, and that really helped a lot with that. So it was pretty cool.
So I know you're talking about like special places you had to go. I know, was it for the entire time y'all were not allowed to post pictures of Korben? Y'all were not.
We were not allowed, even after he was placed in our home, we were not allowed to post pictures until the adoption was actually final in court.
Right.
Did they say a reason for that? Or
He's
is it just-
considered a ward of the state.
Okay.
So they're legally responsible for him.
Because a lot of the cases are so bad with parents trying to kidnap the kids
Yeah.
or stuff like that. They don't want people to have easy access to the
Right.
kids.
Yeah.
So they just have across the board rule that as long as a child is in custody of the state, that you're legally not allowed to post public pictures on any type of public forum. We could take pictures of
Yeah.
them and we could send them to our relatives, which we did not do because I can't
We
trust.
didn't trust
Yeah.
some of
I
our
love my
relatives.
mom to death, but I know the moment that I give
She
her
actually
picture.
did try, like when I first had a picture of Korben,
She
my
begged.
older sister
Oh.
and I, we drove to Lubbock
to show the picture.
just to show the picture to Corey's parents and to my grandparents.
was reluctant to even relinquish it physically for even a moment, because my mom has this habit of, well, I would never show it to the world, but I'm gonna secretly text it to so and so, or I'm gonna send it in a message to my friend, and then that friend has a friend of a friend of a friend who doesn't care, and then before you know it, everything's on Facebook somehow.
So she did. She begged me for copies. I was like, nope, sorry. This is why I drove here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember as soon as I remember the pictures of the final court.
The day we shut Facebook down.
Yeah, because I remember seeing the pictures of in the picture in the courthouse, and then I remember after that hundreds
Yeah.
of pictures. Maybe not hundreds, but I remember seeing.
There's
We
a
had our-
Wikipedia page about that day in history.
We had our files ready on our computers to
We were in a
upload to
hotel
Facebook.
room, and we're like both eating the Wi-Fi.
Set it on a timer. if you didn't click it like every 24 hours,
It wasn't. It wasn't like,
post.
well, which picture are you going to share? It was like we were across the room for each other. Each had our laptops. I was like, which album are you posting right now? And she's like, I'm posting the Christmas album. It's like, oh, okay, well that's cool. Well, I'm posting
The
the
Zoo
Zoo album or the